In 1453, the most powerful army on earth broke through the walls of Constantinople. Cannons the size of houses, a fleet that blackened the sea, an empire that stretched across 3 continents. The Ottomans didn't just win that day, they proved something, that the future belonged to empires. Massive, centralized, unstoppable. Meanwhile, 600 kilometers away, a handful of broke, bickering kingdoms were busy doing what they always did, fighting each other. Over a hill, over a river, over a marriage that went wrong 80 years ago. If you were placing a bet in 1453 on who would run the world by 1900, you would not have bet on them. You'd have been wrong. Here's the question nobody asks in school. Not, how did Europe conquer the world, but why was Europe even in the race? It had no monopoly on gunpowder. China had that first. No monopoly on navigation. Arab and Chinese sailors were crossing oceans, while European maps still had sea monsters drawn on the edges. No monopoly on wealth. The richest man who ever lived wasn't European. He was West African. By almost every measure that mattered in the year 1400, Europe was the underdog. Poor, cold, divided into what historians estimate were over 1,000 independent political units. 1,000! Not 1,000 villages, 1,000 separate rulers, each with their own army, their own laws, their own grudges. It should have been a footnote. Instead, it became the rule the rest of the world had to live by. So what happened? The answer is almost insulting in its simplicity. Europe never managed to unite, and that failure was the whole engine. Picture China, one emperor, one decision, one mind controlling the fate of 100 million people. In 1433, that mind decided the great treasure fleets, ships 5 times the size of anything Columbus would ever sail, were a waste of money. He burned the records, banned the ships, closed the door. One signature, the greatest navy in the world, gone. Now picture Europe. No one could do that, because there was no one in charge. If the King of Portugal said no to a mission, the explorer just walked across the border and asked the King of Spain. If Spain said no, he tried England. If England said no, there was always someone in Genoa willing to gamble. Columbus was rejected, twice, by 2 different crowns. A monopoly would have ended his career. A continent of rivals gave him a 3rd option. That's not a fluke. That's the pattern. That's the whole story. Every European king lived with the same nightmare. Somewhere, a rival was getting richer, building better ships, hiring better gunsmiths, funding a voyage that might pay off in gold. Stand still, and you don't just fall behind, you get invaded. So nobody stood still. When Portugal found a sea route around Africa, Spain didn't shrug. Spain funded a madman who promised a shortcut to Asia by sailing the other way. When the Dutch built a financial system that could fund entire war fleets through public stock, the English copied it within a generation. When one army adopted the flintlock musket, every army on the continent had one within 10 years, or they stopped existing. Failure in Europe was never the end of an idea. It was just the idea moving to the next kingdom over. 1,000 rulers meant 1,000 chances to say yes, and history only needs one yes. This is the uncomfortable part. We tell the story of human progress like it's about genius, about vision, about one civilization simply being smarter than the rest. But Europe's rise reads less like a triumph and more like an accident that kept happening. 1,000 small kingdoms, too poor and too proud to ever stop competing, accidentally built something no empire ever could. Not a single great machine, 1,000 small machines, all racing each other, all stealing each other's parts, all terrified of falling behind. China had the better fleet, the better gunpowder, the better head start. But China only needed one emperor to lose his nerve. Europe needed all of them to lose theirs at once. That never happened. So the next time someone tells you that unity is always strength, remember the empire that closed its ports with a single decree. And remember the continent that was too divided to ever make that same mistake. Sometimes the civilizations that change the world aren't the ones that have it all figured out. They're just the ones too stubborn, too fractured, and too competitive to ever agree on giving up.